Welcome back. The ninth Biennial Dominican Studies Association Conference seeks to stimulate dialogue among scholars, artists, and cultural activists working on Dominican subjects across the world, while exploring complex issues of social relations. The event usually takes place in person at Hostos Community College, but this year's biennial conference will be taking place virtually due to the pandemic. Joining us now to discuss are Nelson Santana, Assistant Professor at Bronx Community College, and Evelyn Fernandez-Ketcham, Executive Director of Workforce Development at Hostos Community College. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sonyi, for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So first, before we start, for those who are not familiar, can you give us a little background about Dominican Studies Association and its history within CUNY?
So I'll start and I'll let Nelson to expand. But we are a professional organization, and basically it provides an opportunity in the forum for Dominican studies scholars to come together and be able to network, cultivate alternative agendas beyond their respective institutions, and to address the academic issues impacting the homeland, the local, and other global Dominican communities. The conference also is a great space for new and upcoming scholars. I know I myself benefited a great deal from the last conference that happened, and it was exciting to be at a place where I was surrounded by Dominicans and Latino scholars, and here I am. Now I'm on the board because I became very excited about having the space to be able to network. So it does live up to its membership expectations of creating the platform for up and coming and scholars to connect with other researchers and also to present their scholarly work. That is very important, and to obtain mentoring as well. Now I'm joined with other scholars in the Dominican community.
Thank you, Evelyn. And Nelson, did you also want to contribute to that?
Sure. I mean, yes, it's a place, where many different types of people, scholars, intellectuals, cultural activists, regular activists, elected officials, artists, they all come together and they form part of this amazing community. And yeah, it's a space for anyone and everyone interested in learning more about Dominican culture, Dominican society, etc.
Right. And, obviously this year is completely different. Community is still important despite the pandemic, but how has DSA helped support Dominican students in CUNY during the pandemic throughout these tough times?
I think that one of the things that has happened during the global pandemic is that issues in our community are just being highlighted and they're more amplified now. Again, I think that the conference is what we work toward to provide the space and the forum where students can connect, and continuing professional scholars to be able to connect with people who've been in the field. And one of the things that we try to embed in our theme this year was to put it out there that many of the issues that we're dealing with during the global pandemic have been amplified, so that we don't forget and move away from the work that many scholars have already been working on, and much of the research that has been already going on. The pandemic just amplifies it for us, and it gives us more energy to continue to research more and find out and figure out more ways that we can better assist our communities.
Thank you. Let's introduce our viewers a little more about the conference. This year is the 9th biennial, so it happens every other year. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and how this year is going to be different?
We have been we have actually, we've taken a negative and turned it into a positive, in the sense that we're going to make this conference more accessible to the masses, for instance, right? So we will have a full online presence for the first time. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time ever, possibly, but definitely in comparison to the previous few conferences, this conference will be free to the public. Now, we are requesting a donation. However, the conference, again, two positives, is more accessible this year. And the other part is the free component.
Thank you, Nelson. And let's discuss the specific theme, crisis of truth, state of emergency, and social responses, the urgency of Dominican and ethnic studies in the present hour. Why was this theme so important for this year in particular?
Ethnic studies. I don't want to get political here at all. But anyone who has been following politics in the past few years is aware, or if they're not aware, we're going to make them aware that certain policies have changed. So there has been, in certain parts of the United States, this shift of bringing down ethnic studies, underfunding ethnic studies programs, etc. And so ethnic study programs are, the humanities, for example, even in just regular colleges, the humanities are also being underfunded, as opposed to fields in STEM for the STEM fields, for example, right? The sciences, engineering, mathematics, etc. And so there has been this wave of scholars, for instance, that have been combating this, such as Dr. Loria Garcia Peña, for example, very famous case. And she has been one of the advocates and one of the champions of this. And so we actually want to highlight this aspect. We want to bring attention to this matter. We want to build a coalition of allies. And in fact, at this year's conference, there will be several panels that will address this matter. But we have Dr. Loria Garcia Peña, for example, who will be in one session. And we have another session specifically on ethnic studies as well. And so we encourage the program. If the program is actually out, we have finished it. It's just a matter of making it public. And once we make that available to the public and people, we'll share it later on the websites where they can access this information. And there you will see this lineup of ethnic studies, and hopefully people can join in the conversation and share this information. And going back to the topic of elected officials being a part of this conference, part of it is this affects us, right? There are policies that affect us in many, many, many ways. And I know there are scholars who do not like working with elected officials, but we believe that the Dominican Studies Association provides this platform for people from different fields and different walks of life to come together and address certain topics. Evelyn, would you like to take it from?
Sure. And I mean, it's exciting. The conference, the goal is to to stimulate discussion among scholars from everywhere in the world. In every conference, we draw scholars from Canada, Santo Domingo, Europe, other parts of the country. And what I think for me is very exciting and really important is that, we have to keep in mind that in New York City, amongst Hispanics, Dominicans continue to show the largest increase in total population. In 2016, the Pew Research Center reported that our population had grown over 2 million, in New York State holding the largest share of the population. But more importantly is that 42% of which over like 1 million are populated in New York City, New Jersey, Pennsylvania metropolitan area. The other important fact on the numbers is that 64% of Dominican immigrants living in the United States have been living here for more than 10 years. So this is why continuing this work is really important. And this is also important for CUNY, for the City University of New York, because in CUNY also Dominican students continue to be the largest share of the students in the CUNY system. So this is all very exciting that it's, that we're continuing to do this and that we're opening it up now virtually and for free.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Nelson and Evelyn. Before we go, the DSA did call for proposals and submissions back in August. What types of themes are being explored in these papers that were submitted by some of the scholars, and how are they being presented to the public during the event and during the panels?
Well, there were actually so many different themes. We received a record number of proposals. It was amazing. And so we have several themes. We actually had to adjust our theme slightly, well, because you cannot really ignore COVID-19 and the pandemic. And so we had to adjust it. And we received several papers, and there are at least full panels on COVID-19, for example. We have topics, again, on ethnic studies, the importance of ethnic studies. We have topics on bachata, El Tieto Show, just production, artists, all types of topics, and that will be explored. Different types of generations, from the parents, the children, etc. And so, we basically have something for everyone. When people look at the program and actually scroll down, they will see some pretty heavyweight scholars that they've known for years, or up and coming and emerging scholars and activists, etc. Evelyn, would you like to add a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I'm new to the space, so I defer to Nelson. For me, it's been very exciting to see the myriad of topics, because it's not just scholarly works as we know it to be. There's also cultural topics involved as well that include the music, which is all part of who we are. So I think that that's really exciting. We're also going to be holding an auction where some art pieces, cultural pieces, are going to be auctioned. So we look forward to that as well.
Sounds like a wonderful event. Thank you both so much for, continuing this work and doing it despite the pandemic and transitioning to a virtual realm. Let me just invite our viewers to come and join the DSA Biennial 9th Biennial Conference taking place December 4th to December 5th. So if you want to register, you can visit DominicanStudiesAssociation.org. You can find more information there. The flyer will be there. Also follow Hostos College on Twitter and Instagram in order to find out more information through Hostos. That's all for our show today. Thank you for tuning in to BXRx. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, wishing you and your family safety and wellness now and always.